Hunters, thank you for joining us. I'm Joy.
And I'm Laura.
And this is The Witches of Letters, a supernatural rewatch podcast.
Buckle up for part 1 of our Halloween 2025 listener lore bonus episodes.
Every Friday in October in the run-up to Halloween, we're bringing you local lore that has been sent to us by our listeners and also some of our own.
Yay!
Woo!
Yeah, welcome everyone. So this is our first of 5 bonus Halloween episodes that we have for you.
5. We've already had a lot of responses for the Your Local Lore thing that I put up earlier in stories and some posts that I put up. So we realized we wouldn't be able to get everyone's story in if we only did one Halloween bonus episode, which is obviously our original plan. So Laura came up with the brilliant idea to do a weekly episode in the run-up to Halloween.
Yay! And so there is still time to send us yours in. So send them in to thewitchesofletters@gmail.com.
Do it. Yeah.
So I think we should just get straight into it, shall we? Joy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So everything that I'm reading was submitted to us from a friend of mine called Melissa. She is amazing. She is very, very cool. She's also from Florida. And I am going to start off with the swamp ape. So some people call it the skunk ape. Some people call it the swamp ape. I personally really prefer swamp ape. And I'm pretty sure that's also like most of what I heard both growing up. But I've always swamp ape just makes sense to me. He's an ape type creature and he lives in the swamp. What more do you want?
Yeah.
It's better. It's better. Okay, so the swamp ape, most famously known as the Florida skunk ape, is a Bigfoot-like cryptid of folklore in the southeastern United States, particularly Florida's Everglades, characterized by its ape-like appearance, foul odor, and elusive behavior. So basically, people think that it smells kind of like a skunk.
I was going to say, is that why it's called the skunk ape? Because it smells
like sulfury, kind of like swampy, which to be fair, if you were actually a hairy dude in a swamp in Florida, that probably is how you would smell most of the time. Like, just if we're being realistic about it, yeah? So, descriptions often include reddish brown hair, kind of think like orangutan sort of coloring, a height of 5 to 7 feet. So he's not littler than Bigfoot. It should be noted. Okay, he's a tall man sometimes. And some people describe it as a stench, likened to rotten eggs or skunks, which, to be honest, is just kind of like how the swamp smells in places. Because in Florida, we have these big pockets of like natural warm springs, which are created by sulfur deposits, and sulfur smells like eggs. So all I can think of is Sam and Dean and be like, "Do you smell that? Sulfur, demons,
demon dust,
demon dust,
demon dust smells like eggs,
demon dust, eggy." So while the swamp ape has been compared to Bigfoot, in the folklore, it's kind of considered to be sort of a distinct creature because it's seen in this region. The descriptions are slightly different. Origin story slightly different. So it's kind of seen as like a Bigfoot-like creature, but not necessarily Bigfoot because Bigfoot happens in a different area of the United States. So think of them as like brothers or cousins. So some people think that it may be of Native American origin. Particularly, there's accounts of this being linked to Seminole tales and Miccosukee tribes tales. Now growing up, I definitely heard some people say that this was an indigenous creature, and it like a native spirit, or an important piece of native culture, but not being within the culture myself, it's really hard to say. Like friends of mine who had closer connections seem to believe that it was like from that origin. So that's a possibility, but I don't have anything set in stone that says this is definitely from the Seminole Nation. Or this is from this people, if that makes sense. But it does seem pretty likely because as far as I understand it, the origins of Bigfoot are also supposed to be indigenous belief first, like indigenous folklore first, and then
Mhm.
it's supposed to have spread out. That's what I've always kind of read, basically. So I would be really curious to learn more about that. Because I think that's really, really interesting and cool. So sightings for it gained a lot of traction in the 60s and the 70s. And it is still a really important part of Southern folklore and culture. So if you're a kid and you grew up in Florida, you're going to know what it is. It's going to be part of your everyday, just like around Laura's area, you have things like really famous, like demonic doggies. And if you're from that area, you're going to hear that story, right? So, like, if you're from
Yeah.
Florida, you're going to have heard this story. You're going to have grown up with this story. So, as far as the indigenous origins go, it's supposed to kind of be referred to as a hairy giant in the Miccosukee and Seminole oral traditions. And it includes stories of powerful and secretive, this kind of being known as Esti Kapkaki. This furry tall man or hairy giant roamed the swamps and forests, often avoiding human contact. As far back as 1818, there are newspaper reports from what is now Apalachicola, Florida, describing a man-sized monkey. This creature reportedly raided food and stores and stalked fishermen in behavior reminiscent of later skunk ape sightings. The Everglades, which served as a refugee for the Miccosukee and Seminole people as they resisted forced relocation by the U.S. government, became a really important habitat and are deeply associated with the swamp ape, which is another reason why it's kind of like seen as like a protector of indigenous spaces in certain ways.
Yeah.
So the tribe's close relationship to the land and its wildlife is reflected in their deep reverence for the environment. The Esti Kapkaki folklore is part of this connection, with tales passed down through generations. The descriptions of the Esti Kapkaki share key similarities with modern skunk ape accounts, suggesting the folklore contributed to the recent cryptid legend. So, like chicken or egg, the suggestion is that he's indigenous first, and then later on, the settlers and colonizers see him and they're like, hey, what's that? So there's a history of sightings, right? So I'm reading from, this is my favorite thing ever. There's a Florida gate and like security agency, basically, which if you look in my show notes, you can click through and read the whole thing. I fucking love these people. Okay, this is the most Florida shit I've ever seen in my entire life. So they're like, secure your gates and everything against the swamp ape. And they have a whole like series of history, like historical accounts of the swamp ape. And then they're like, guys, let us sell you this fence. We're going to keep that out, and the gators too. That's just my favorite thing ever. So they say that the first major skunk ape sighting in the modern sense occurred in 1929 in the Florida Keys. Workers constructing the Perky Bat Tower, which is a fun name, reported that an ape-like creature had appeared near the site. After inspecting the tower, the creature allegedly shook it violently and drove off the bats that had been recently stalked there. This incident caught the attention of local media and was one of the first reports to receive widespread attention. Leave the bats alone. That's what I say. Bats are adorable.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was offended by the bats, but apparently he said, no bats here. So, in the 1940s, they report something called the Barden Booger. You cannot make this up.
Ew.
So, this was in Putnam County, and it led to reports of a creature locally described as the Barden Booger. Residents reported as strange ape-like creatures lurking in the woods and approaching homes. I should clarify for those of y'all who are not Southern, boogers are like, I think, now this is my own personal theory. Like I know that it's very similar in the way that it is talked about in the folklore, but my kind of like idea of how it came to be is in England, in places here you have a Bogart, right? Bogarts. And then and they're not Humphrey Bogart, but they're like actually like spooky bad fairy type creatures. And they sometimes could be referred to as something that sounds similar to a booger, like a nickname kind of thing. And
Yeah.
boogers in the South, the deep South, is like a funny hillbilly backcountry way of saying that it was some kind of imp.
Okay, yeah, like
So the
something
bard and
scary.
booger is like, think of it as like the bard and imp. That's a more appropriate way, not something that comes out of your
Rather than a
nose.
big snot.
It's not snot. Okay. So residents reported strange ape-like creatures lurking in the woods and approaching homes. One particularly memorable incident involved a creature rushing out of the brush and attacking a car. I can hear my accent coming back. This kind of brazen interaction with humans would become a common theme in many future skunk ape sightings. In the 1960s, we start getting sightings in Central Florida. So there was a sharp uptick in skunk ape reports, especially in the Alachua and Marion counties of Central Florida. In 1963, a family near their rural home had a terrifying encounter when an ape-like creature approached their window at night, staring at them. These reports continued through the decade, with many witnesses describing sightings of a, quote, tall, hairy man moving stealthily through the trees.
Okay, you don't really want to see a big hairy man staring through your window at night, in fairness.
No, not so much.
That would
Not
be
so
pretty
much.
scary.
No.
Did you say before that it was just the Keys that it was seen?
So the indigenous stories are obviously more widespread. But in terms of like mainstream media presence from the 20s, it seems to
Yeah.
start in the Keys and then spread kind of upwards through the state, it looks like. So we've gone from very south, kind of moving our way up through the south, and then now up into Central Florida.
Yeah, okay.
So in the 1970s, Palm Beach County deputies had an encounter, and this is one of the most well-known skunk ape encounters. When these two Palm Beach sheriff deputies, Marvin Lewis and Ernie Milner, reported being stalked by an ape-like creature through a grove. So this is the cops. After following a trail of large footprints, they shot at the creature because it's Florida. Of course they did.
Of course they did, yeah.
Of course they did. Shoot first, ask questions never. They later found hair snagged on a barbed wire fence, further fueling speculation about the creature's existence. This incident, along with a rash of similar reports in Broward County, I'm from really close to Broward County. What's really funny is as you move further forward, this gets like to my area of Florida, and that cracks me up. So there's a whole rash of reports in Broward County during the same period of time, and that helped really popularize the term skunk ape. In these years, sightings spread beyond rural areas, and even law enforcement officers became involved. In some cases, police reports indicated that the Florida skunk ape cryptids had been seen in populated areas, often causing panic and speculation about its potential danger to livestock and humans. And that is true.
Oh.
Because I grew up in the 90s, and in the 90s, this was a whole thing. And if you walked up to the
Yeah.
police and said, like, have you ever seen the swamp ape? They would be like, yeah, I have. Or they'd be like, my cousin's auntie's nephew saw it this one time. Okay, so in the 90s, the Myakka skunk ape photos came out. So in 97, the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, which is where I spent all of my like summers and like weekends and shit, received
What, the sheriff's office?
in Sarasota.
It's like, what were you up to?
I was in trouble a lot, but I didn't get arrested as a kid. I just got sent to detention a lot. So in 97, the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office received 2 anonymous photographs that purportedly depicted a large hairy creature lurking around a backyard in Myakka City, Florida. The images, which have come to be known as the Myakka skunk ape photos, show a figure that some claim is a skunk ape, while others argue that it resembles very, very closely the Bigfoot statue found in Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. The photographs sparked renewed interest in the creature, but their authenticity remains hotly debated. Which, okay, here are the options as I see them. Okay, A, it was a skunk ape and people saw it and they're like, oh my god. B, some bros got drunk on some moonshine, broke into Ripley's Believe It or Not, and took the statue out for a joyride to fuck with people, and that is hilarious. Either way, I am happy. Either you have a cryptid wandering around my area of Florida, or you have people breaking into Ripley's Believe It or Not and carting around a statue.
Yeah, both is quite fun.
I love it. It's very Florida. Okay, so the 2000s and beyond. Sightings of the Florida skunk ape cryptids have continued into the 21st century with reports coming from throughout Florida. In 2010, researchers from the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, so the BFRO, noted that 48 out of 67 counties in Florida had reported sightings since 2010. More recently, Everglades wildlife tour operators like David Shealy have reported spotting the Florida skunk ape cryptids in the region, with some witnesses even claiming to have seen them while out on tours in the Florida Everglades.
That sounds cool. I love cryptids, and
Yeah.
that sounds fun. And I
Mm.
love the kind of Bigfooty type ones as well,
Mm. Yeah,
because you get them everywhere.
my personal theory has always been that Bigfoot and the swamp ape are indigenous spirits, and they're local, and they're very real, and they hang around, and they like to be seen sometimes. Because like there's the obviously the other theories are that apes, like actual apes, got loose from a zoo at some point. Um and
Yeah,
that
but I
is
don't think people would
possible.
see them as much, or like if there was more than one and they bred, they'd be seen way more, and it
Well,
would be like a documented
yeah.
thing.
So this is the thing. So there's a couple of things that I like to think about this. Okay. Monstrum, which is a PBS program that I recommend that everybody see, which is presented by Dr. Emily Zarka, who's amazing.
I think she's one of
Recently,
my sources coming up.
oh, I love her. Recently did a special on cryptids and monsters. And one of the points that she made was that there have been animals that up until recently, some in the more recent past and some in the more distant past, were really thought to be cryptids and completely made up until people documented it. And it would be things that indigenous people were like, yeah, that's the thing. They'd be describing it like, for instance, one of the ones is a platypus. Like Australian people were like, platypus, it's a thing. And platypuses are really fucking weird, aren't they? You're describing some
Yeah.
dude, like this thing that sounds like a chimera from Greece or some shit, where it's got like the beak of a duck and the body of an otter and like webbed feet and lays eggs, but also sweats milk or whatever else it does. And people are going to be like, yeah, okay, sure. Fine, my guy, fine. But there's also much more recent instances. Like I can't remember the name of the animal that she showed in this episode, but she was somewhere in Africa, and it's this really cute like zebra horse giraffe looking combo. And no one knew that it was real until much later on. But the indigenous people were obviously like, yeah, of course it's real. We've seen it. Like
Aw,
this no
yeah.
one believed that it was real until I think it was like the 18 or the 1900s when this one guy managed to befriend them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll show you where it is." And he sent back photos and like but I think he brought one into a zoo temporarily or something to be like, "Look, it's real." Um so yeah, I don't know. I love things like that. And she
Yeah.
points out that there are some cryptids that we think are cryptids and they're actually just really animals that have remained very elusive, and that is a possibility. Like look at snow leopards and how difficult it is to capture snow leopards on even like our high ass tech equipment that we have now. It is still so hard to find them. So I mean, I love the idea that in 2025, which we still are, we're still discovering new species all the time. They found a little pocket-sized shark the other day that
Aw.
glows in the dark. He's bioluminescent and he glows green. So cute. Honestly, the cutest thing I've ever seen. So we're discovering new things all the time. There's things like the Kraken. Everybody was like, the Kraken's not real until in my lifetime, that shit washed up on the beach and people were like, oh, we
Yeah.
take it back. We were wrong. So, I mean, it's like you have an actual ape or series of apes escaping from the zoo. I don't think they're probably living wild out there because I don't know. I just feel like it'd be hard to have enough gene variants that they wouldn't just inbreed themselves out of existence.
Yeah.
Um Also, Floridians are pretty good with guns and hunting and other things. There are a lot of people still in Florida that hunt to put food on the table. Um, so I feel like if it was something like that, somebody would have shot a gorilla or an ape by now and been like, "Oh, we solved the mystery," you know. Um, so I don't know. I'm thinking either elusive creature, which I feel like is less likely now that things are more built up, but maybe possible in a place like the Everglades where it's still very wild and there's acres and acres and acres of unexplored land, or indigenous spirit, which is what I've always thought. Like I've always been like, oh, he's an indigenous spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to believe in most cryptids.
Yeah. I like approaching it from the point of view. I'm hilarious though, because I'm a complete hypocrite. Because if you say to me aliens, I'll roll my eyes. But if someone says it's the Fae, I'm like, yes, I absolutely believe you.
I believe both.
Yeah. So like I believe in aliens scientifically, like that there is alien life out there because the odds that there is really high
Yeah.
considering. Like they're there somewhere.
There's
I
so much
just
space we don't know
I just
exists.
personally don't think that we're encountering aliens yet. That's my
No.
personal take. Um so like when I listen to cryptid people talking and they talk about aliens, I'm like, that sounds an awful lot like the Fae, y'all. That sounds like fairy fuckery to me. So that's my hot take and my 2 cents.
Yep.
Do you want
Cool.
to do your story now, Laura?
Yeah, mine's not as fun. So yeah, my first story, I'm going to start with something from my local area. Because there's so much. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
probably pepper some of these in throughout this month
Yeah.
because I've got like where I live is crazy. So Norfolk in the UK is where I live. And there are so many haunted places around here. It's so old. Like Norwich Cathedral and the castle, for example, were both built in the early 1100s.
I love shit
And
like that. I'm a
they're not
typical
even the
American.
oldest buildings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can imagine there's haunted pubs, there's abbeys, there's lots of spooky stuff
I
associated with the Norfolk Broads.
love a haunted pub.
Yeah. There are a lot of haunted pubs and hotels around that I really want to go ghost hunting in actually.
We're definitely adding it to the road trip.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's so much. And like the Broads, I mean, from living in Florida, like the Everglades, I'm imagining it's similar kind of
Hmm.
fairy stuff, like you say. Anything with water, there's going to be like, there's folklore around water. And
Yeah.
there's so much of that around here. And yeah, my favourite, which you touched upon earlier, my favourite lore from around here is Black Shuck, but I already covered that in the Crossroads Blues episode, which is episode 31 of this podcast. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
bringing you a different story today, and I'm going completely
Ooh.
different. Now, it's kind of partly, there is a spooky element, there's a haunting, but it's also like a real story that's just horrible. So,
Oh.
so I want to talk to you about the Augustine Steward House. Have you ever heard of that before?
No. I'm really excited though.
And it's also actually I don't want to tell you what it's called until later. There's like the name for it, but it gives away the kind of thing.
Okay.
But it's also there's a grey lady of Tombland, which is the associated ghost with this, which I'll come back to later as well. So it's kind of a sad story rather than scary, but it's one that I think about this a lot because I go past this building a lot.
Mm.
So the Augustine Steward House is a 16th century merchant's house, and it's in an area of Norwich called Tombland, and this is where the cathedral is. And it's not called Tombland because there's like graves and stuff.
Oh, that's disappointing.
No, it sounds spooky, but it's not. Well, it is, but
I'm just
not because
picturing
of the
a
name.
land of like a necropolis.
Yeah, like a big graveyard.
Yeah.
But it actually got its name from the late Saxon word for an open space. So this is like where they would have had markets and stuff back in the day.
Okay. So it would be like market town in English.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the story goes that in 1578 there was a huge outbreak of the plague in the city, and
Unfortunate.
this wasn't the first one. There'd been plague pits and stuff everywhere, but this particular outbreak killed at least 4,800 people.
Jesus.
Yeah, and when people caught the plague or if they died from it, what they used to do is they used to board up the houses for about a month or so before clearing any bodies out or seeing if any survivors are in there. And that was to stop the spread of the disease because they didn't know how it was spreading. They were just like, right, we're just going to shut them all in. And then if
It's
anyone
honestly
survived,
not
great.
the worst tactic ever.
No,
Like,
because they
it
didn't want to
probably
get
helped
infected.
somewhat, but it maybe just didn't help as much as it would have if people would have known how it was spreading.
Yeah, yeah. So the family that were living in this house at the time all contracted the disease and they boarded up the house. And the
Mhm.
mother and father died. And I think they thought they'd all died, in fairness. But the little girl was still alive. And so after this time that it had been shut up or boarded up, they when the authorities opened the house again to clear it out, they found the body of the little girl next to her parents. But her parents had visible teeth marks in their flesh. And also some reports also stated that the girl had a chunk of flesh lodged in her throat.
Yeah.
So, like, the law is that she'd started to eat her parents to try and stay alive because she was starving.
Yeah.
And that's just horrible. But she is now said to haunt the house and the streets of Tombland. And she reportedly opens and closes doors in the house and randomly moves objects. Fun fact, there is now an escape room in the lower floor of the home, which I haven't been to because I believe it's themed around the story. And
Yeah.
that feels a bit weird to me.
Yeah. Wonder how the ghost girl feels about that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, nah. But so the Grey Lady of Tombland that I mentioned earlier is a
Yeah.
standalone ghost. She's like sorrowful ghost floating through the streets of Tombland. But she's also said to be the same girl because some of the reports say it was a little girl and some of the reports say she was a young woman. So they think it's the
Okay.
same person. But like that must have been so traumatic for her and it's really sad. And no wonder she haunts it.
Yeah, I mean, that's horrific. Like, because people will be like, ugh. But also, that what that's what everyone would probably do in that situation.
Yeah, and I mean she probably was thinking, oh, they if I can just survive like a month, then they'll come and
Yeah.
get me.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not documented how old she is, but I've definitely read similar accounts from like Roanoke, where it's like a toddler,
Yeah,
um, or like a child of a similar age, where there's probably like just no understanding of what's even happening. So it's really, 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 really awful and
hmm
really sad. Um, and I think that's one of the biggest tragedies of things like the plague is there's so many heart-wrenching, like bone-chilling accounts of the absolute horror of it, of
yeah.
having a disease running through, killing everyone
Just so
around
many
you.
people. Yeah,
Yeah, and just having no idea what's causing it because COVID was horrible, right? COVID was awful, but
yeah,
we knew what was happening and we
hmm
very quickly knew how to prevent ourselves from getting sick because we understood how it was spread. But
yeah. The
like
mortality rate
obviously
was nowhere near like the plague, was it?
no. And in the 1500s, you're dealing with
Yeah,
a much worse plague, which is way more deadly. They have no idea how it's spreading. And like it's so bad that there are body pits everywhere basically because they couldn't even keep up with the number of people that were dying.
yeah. I think I said on an episode, I've definitely said it to you, and I think it's on an episode somewhere about when the shopping centre was built in the city, they uncovered a big plague pit
Yeah.
and they had to like relocate all the bodies.
Yeah, it makes me sad. One of the ancestry matches that I had through that service that Laura and I both use, that if you've been listening to the podcast since the beginning, we've mentioned it before. Um, came up was a few plague victims in London.
Mm. I had one from the Netherlands that was a plague victim actually on mine.
Yeah. So it's just like it's sad and it's weird to think about it because everybody who's alive today is a descendant of a survivor, aren't they? All of us from this side of the world anyway who had the
Yeah.
plague. Like we're all related to the people who managed to create an immunity and survive somehow. So we all have a link to it at some point in our family
Yeah.
past if we're from this sort of area ethnically anyway. Um but the plague hit most of the world, from my understanding. So
Yeah, I think
I feel
so.
like it probably hit everywhere at some point in history.
Yeah. But the other name for this story, which I didn't want to say earlier, was the Cannibal Girl.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
But
Which
yeah.
is just kind of rude, isn't it? Because it's like, all
Mm,
right, you be locked alone as a small child in a
yeah.
house for that long, starving to death, and see what you do.
Yeah, exactly. But the actual house is kind of cool looking. What I'm going to do for these episodes, I'm going to try and put together a Instagram post, um, like the out of context ones, but I'll definitely have pictures of all the things we talked about, and I'll put a picture of this house because I always used to call it the wonky house when I was little because it is literally like an old Tudor house, but it's wonky, like with all the
Oh
wooden
yeah.
beams and stuff. But it's wonky. So yeah, I just used to call
You
it the
couldn't
wonky
see it,
house.
but she was like putting her hands up and then tilting them over.
I don't know how to describe it on the podcast, but yeah,
Right,
I'll put a picture.
basically, if you've ever seen those really cool old black and white medieval cottages, which you can Google them like really easily, just Google English cottage from the 1500s and you'll see it. Because they're made of wood and like clay, I think it is. Some of the stuff like that they fill it in with. It's all natural materials, which means that over time the houses settle and sink and shift, and it's very expensive and difficult to repair them and keep them up, but there still are a few actual medieval houses around the UK, and some places like big sections of them, like in Winchester, where it's just all these gorgeous old buildings from so long ago, and they're very cool, but they do tend to be sort of tilty and bendy because they're just a natural structure, so they're gonna
Yeah.
change and shift with time. Okay, so the next topic that I have is the Cuban Club ghosts. So this comes
Ooh.
from an article written by The Dead History. They have one of those things where you can tip them. So since I'm using their material for this, I would love it if you guys could click the link and go and drop them a little tip if you end up enjoying this story. So, tucked in the heart of Ybor City, the Cuban Club, or El Círculo Cubano, stands as a monument to the dreams, resilience, and tragedies of Tampa's Cuban immigrant community. Its neoclassical facade may be elegant and stoic, but the stories that echo within its walls are anything but silent. The Cuban Club is where history and hauntings collide with culture and tragedy. It's created a space where the past lingers in the present, sometimes in ways we can't explain. In 1899, the Cuban Club was established as a mutual aid society offering hope and resources to Cuban immigrants during challenging times. What began as a lifeline for a struggling community grew into a cultural beacon. The Cuban Club's rich history has made it a hotspot for ghostly encounters. One of the most well-known spirits is the woman in white. Visitors and staff have reported a ghostly figure in a white gown and red heels seen wandering the grand staircase. Legend says she was pushed from a balcony after refusing to dance with a man, which, like,
Rude.
sighs of rage. Why are men, Laura?
Why are men? Also,
Why are
why
men?
are ghosts always women in white?
Well, I think there you have two. You have the woman in white and you have the gray ladies, and
Oh yeah.
they're really often linked to what I would call feminist ghosts, where it's a woman who's died a violent death, or it's related to a fey, otherworldly goddess type of figure. And I find them really fascinating because they're, for whatever reason in our culture, the woman in white is always like a vengeful female spirit. And if you're going to
Yeah,
be
or like,
shoved off of a balcony
well,
because you
yeah.
said no to a dance, like, haunt on, girl. Haunt on. That's outrageous. She should haunt that place.
Yeah.
Good for her, we say. So, another spirit, the drowned boy, is said to haunt the basement pool area. Known as Jimmy or Jamie, his presence lingers despite no records confirming such a tragedy. Although this is actually conflicting with another account that I found that said that there did used to actually be a pool in that area, and
Okay.
that there were maybe I don't know if what they're saying is they didn't find a death certificate matching that name. Like, they didn't find a record of it. But also, if you were a club that was hosting incredibly important diplomats and very upscale people, I don't think that you would let it get out that a child had drowned in your hotel.
No, probably not.
I don't think you would.
Not good for business.
Really not good for business. So, in the theater, piano music and footsteps have been heard linked to the playwright's suicide. Stories claim a man took his own life there after forgetting his own lines. The only documented death, however, is Vallejo's restless spirit. His 1934 murder has fueled speculation that his ghost still roams the halls. So basically, with that one, there are 3 men in one of the large reception areas, and they don't really say with when I looked it up, they didn't say exactly what the argument was about, but just that it was heated and that it was from between these 2 guys who are both considered like pillars of the community, kind of. And
We
what
know what
happened?
that happens with those.
Murder, which is what happened. So this guy is in an argument, and basically his name was Vallejo, and his last name, and the guy, his enemy that he's fighting with, the lights go out, so nobody sees what happens, which is convenient. And he claims,
Is this a murder mystery dinner?
yeah, basically, with his dying breath, he's apparently this is what he said had happened. So he said that he felt 2 men grab him, and he felt the guy that he's arguing with shove a gun in his ribcage and then fire a shot.
Yeah.
So he got shot at close range. He lived
Really
for a
close.
short while afterwards and then passed away, which is tragic.
Yeah.
So it seems like really dodgy. And again, really important things were happening in this building, and there were some very important people there. So there's a lot a hotbed of like politics and stuff like that. Now, I do think that overall it was just a good place, a house for the arts and all that stuff. But I think any high scale, like upper echelons of society and trying to help everyone sort of place that you get to that has been around for that long is going to have some history like this.
Yeah.
So that's just like, it is what it is. Like, if you go to any castle here in the UK, there's going to be murders and intrigues and plots. It's just like the nature of business. If you go to a fancy place, probably some shady shit has happened at one point or another, you know? So, visitors and investigators report chilling experiences from disembodied whispers in Spanish to phantom touches and shadowy figures. The elevator moves floors on its own, which is a nope from me. I don't like elevators at all.
No, nor do I.
An elevator that's just going around by itself, you could not pay me money. I am taking the stairs, okay?
Yeah, same.
All day, every day. No.
Even if it was like 100 floors up.
Yeah, I'm taking the stairs.
I'm just going home.
Yeah. Also, in the lounge and in empty rooms, there is ghostly piano music.
Ooh.
So there's no source, but you just hear this phantom music playing, which I love. I'm a big fan of a ghost piano. I love a ghost piano. Ghost pianist gives me good vibes. That's like setting the atmosphere, you know? I'm
if you were there on your own and it was just you and then you heard it, that'd be creepy. But that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. If I was there on my own and I heard phantom piano music, it would give me goosebumps, but it wouldn't be the kind of haunting where I'd just be like, oh no, I'm leaving now. I would probably be like dancing around the room. I feel like. So that might be a lie. I might chicken out, but I don't know. I like ghostly music. I don't think I would. So in 2009, TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, investigated the Cuban Club. Now, in the UK, do you know who TAPS are?
No.
Because they're not as big as Ghost Adventures, but they're really big in the US still. Like, it's an American investigation team. They're quite down to earth. Actually, I really enjoy them. So just for our international listeners, think like Ghost Adventures, but not. Like, think
Ghost
grounded
Adventures,
and
but
chill.
not taunting ghosts all the time. Yeah.
Not taunting ghosts all the time, yeah. They try to debunk things. They don't try to prove things. They try to debunk things. And then the things that they can't debunk, they present as this is what we found.
Yeah, cool. I like that. I like debunking
Mm,
as well as ghost hunting.
yeah, me too. So, um, they investigated the Cuban Club and they found actually a lot of evidence, and I believe it's one of their more high rated episodes that could be really fun to check out. You can probably find clips of it on YouTube if you're interested. Um, So, most recently, a construction worker who was the last person in the building at the time heard a woman scream from the basement. He realized that he was completely alone and he left so fast. He left his tools and everything, which, like, that is your tool belt. If that's your job, is like your lifeline. So that just
Yeah,
goes to show, like, he was freaked the fuck out.
definitely.
He said, "No, thank you. I'm gone." And then there was
He
just a
noped
dust
right out
cloud.
there.
He noped all the way out of there. So yeah, like I said, check out Dead History and drop some money in their tip jar if you can, please, just as a way for us to show appreciation for the information.
That was good. I mean, that it was horrible for the people that died there, but fun haunting.
It is a fun haunting. Um it is very sad for the deaths. But it's a really interesting haunting with the phantom elevator and the phantom music
Yeah,
and the screams
so
from
many
the
different
basement.
things. Mm.
Like, who is she?
Yeah, cool.
What's your next story?
So my next one was a listener one, and it is from Brittany in France. So it's, I think I'm saying this right. I looked up so many different pronunciations, and there's so many different ones. So I'm just going to go with Bugul-Noz.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so the Bugul-Noz. Now the listener who sent this in said it was a werewolf type thing, but I
Yeah.
found more about it being a fey-like creature. I did find some references to the werewolf side though, so I'm going to start with that, and then I'll say what else I found
Oh,
too.
I love werewolf stuff.
Yeah. So this source, there isn't much that I found, but this source is from Explore France, which is the tourism board website.
I love that. I love it when tourism boards are like, yes, we have spooky. Come see our spooky.
But yeah, the article was called Werewolves, the Real Landscapes Behind the Tales and Legends. And it says that the name Bugul-Noz stands for Shepherd of the Night or Child of the Night. And he
Oh, I
hides,
love that.
yeah, and he hides under the guise of a shepherd wearing a large coat and an unusually wide hat. This is to hide his true nature, which is that of a werewolf like beast.
Ooh.
And it says that the Bugul-Noz hunts children to lock them in his hat and fishermen to punish them for their crimes.
Fishermen committing lots of crimes in Brittany.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of fisherman crimes.
I mean, historically, it's been like smuggling and stuff like that and environmental crimes. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious if he's like a fae and he's like, how dare you overfish this area? You're killing the water. I put you
But
in
it's
my
also
hat.
like specific, it's like children or fishermen.
Yeah. Only those two things. I guess the kids, he's like, you shouldn't be out this late. Where are your parents? Get in my hat. And the
Get in my
fisherman, I'm
hat.
going to assume that it's smuggling and things that are bad for the waters. And he's like, no, how dare you get in the hat in a less
Yeah.
fun way.
But yeah, it also cautions people not to sing or whistle as the Bugul-Noz will make mincemeat of them. That was great.
Oh, he does not like music, is what I'm
There's loads
learning.
of whistling things. There's a lot that I'm researching at the moment. This is all to do with whistling and stuff from around here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes on to explain that in fact, this is a quote. In fact, there is a rule forbidding locals to whistle or sing for fear of attracting the monster. But the main purpose of the Bugul-Noz was to discourage children from leaving their homes after dark.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that was all I found about the werewolf side of it. So, like I said, there were more sources saying it was a fey-like creature. So I'm going to include some of those too. So
Mhm.
on Cryptid Wiki, they say that the Bugul-Noz is commonly depicted as a small man, a goblin, or kobold. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Mhm.
Emily Carpenter described it as a little man with claws, glowing eyes, and a whistling voice who would threaten shepherds and workers lingering outside after dark. In one tale, the Bugul-Noz rides at night, but retreats at crossroads to avoid the shape of the cross. And if he captures someone, he drowns them as soon as the rooster crows. So it's like there's still a shepherd link here, but instead of
Yeah.
it dressing like one, it's hunting them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's like, you know how stories kind of change over time, and like, I wonder if there's this shepherd thing, and then some people have taken the shepherd thing a different way. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it's curious and it's interesting because it's
Mm.
like know your place and don't be out after dark. So I
Yeah,
suppose the
they have the same moral.
root of it is don't go outside after dark or you might get eaten
Yeah.
or drown.
Yeah, the cross thing was interesting though, like avoiding the
Yeah.
shape of the cross. Like that kind of makes it feel like it might be demonic.
Yeah, it's well, so a lot of old pagan things got demonized as Christianity took over. So that sounds like a medieval monk add-on to me. Um
Yeah.
there are some pre-Christian forms of the cross that would have meant that crossroads would have been safer. I can think of a couple of different protective deities of the crossroads. So it might be that like he wasn't allowed to do mischief there because it belonged to so and so, and that god or goddess would protect you there, which is interesting. But yeah, it's a really cool piece of lore.
Yeah. But there's so that article goes on to say that another account describes it as an undead spirit. So Anatole de Braz, a professor of French literature, heard of the Bugul-Noz as a tall, ominous figure who appears at twilight. However, one source suggested it could also be a protective spirit, encouraging people to stay indoors after dark for safety. So
Mm.
that one's saying it's more of a protective thing, which I did actually. The next source I've got is more of a protective, the protective side of it.
Yeah.
So like less malicious. So this one is from the Demonic Paradise wiki on fandom.com.
Mhm.
And it says, this one I'm just going to read out. So the Bugul-Noz Night Shepherd is a fae-like being in Breton beliefs who lives in the woodlands of Brittany. He is the last of his kind and is considered by other creatures to be incredibly ugly, which causes him great distress. His appearance is so awful that even woodland animals avoid him, and he sometimes cries out to warn others nearby of his approach so he won't frighten them. As he approaches, he's sometimes called the Night Shepherd because he dwells in forests late at night where it is known that danger lurks. It's like, oh. However, the Bugul-Noz is not malicious and is indeed rather kind and gentle, but he's always alone because of his hideous visage. So hideous is he that occasionally those who look upon him die instantly.
Ah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So again, it's protective, but may accidentally kill you if you look at him. Oh,
But he tries to warn you. He's like,
yeah.
"No, don't look."
They kind of all sound
That's
like completely different creatures, but they're
yeah.
all the same, apparently.
I suspect that the one about the children and the fishermen and the one that you just read are probably the original, and the others are what happens as Christianity starts to take over.
Yeah,
That would be my guess. And it might
yeah,
not
and
be that
stories
he
change
was
over time.
hideously ugly. Originally, it could have been that he was like a
I feel
reaper
bad
type
for
of
him.
figure. Yeah, he sounds like a cool little dude. I would hang out with that guy. I would just put like some veil type thing. He could wear a little veil thing and then we could be buddies.
So you don't look at him and instantly die.
Exactly. Then that way I don't die and he has a friend. You got a friend in me.
Yeah. So yes, that's all I have for that one.
Okie dokie. That was a really cool one though. I really, really enjoyed that set of stories. I like it a lot. I'm gonna go on to my last one, which is from the Orlando Tourism Board. This is actually kind of it's from a hotel chain in Orlando. So
I
it
love
is
it when they lean
effectively
into the spooky as like a tourism thing.
yeah. They're like, come stay here, be spooked. So this is from them. They are called the Rosen Inn International. And this is from their 7 most haunted places in Orlando, or spooky places. So the first one is Hamburger Mary's, which is actually a hamburger joint, by the way. I thought it was going to be like she was going to be reduced to hamburger or something as a ghost. I don't know. So it says, you may think you're just stopping for a delicious burger and entertaining drag show, but this Hamburger Mary's has a few more tricks up its sleeve. Located on Church Street in one of downtown Orlando's oldest districts, locals say this burger joint is home to the ghost of a young girl from the 1800s. She is known to tap on the windows, wave at guests, and skip down the street late at night.
That sounds cool. I want to go here.
I know,
So
right?
it's burgers, a drag show, and a ghost.
Right? Doesn't that sound like an epic night out?
Yeah.
She could come with us.
Does this girl, do people know that it's a ghost, or does it just look like a little girl waving through the window?
Well, no, she's definitely a ghost. Like, she's
Okay.
clearly from the 1800s, so she's like
okay.
anachronistic. So you look at her and you're like, oh, that's a ghost. So Orange County Regional History Center. For history that never dies, visit the Orange County Regional History Center, formerly an Orlando courthouse. Legend says the building is haunted by the specter of serial killer. Can you guess? Because you listen to a lot of true crime. Do you know who it is?
Wait, in Orlando?
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to say the one I think. I don't think it is.
Ted Bundy.
Oh, that is what I was going to say. Because that's where he died, like in Florida.
Inside, you can explore the courtroom in which he was convicted and perhaps even catch a glimpse of him along the corridors.
Is that the courtroom where he escaped through the window?
I'm not sure because it doesn't say. But maybe.
I can't remember where that one was. He escaped at one point through a window.
That does sound very Bundy-esque.
I think that might have been before he fled to Florida, actually. So anyway, carry on.
Yeah. If anybody knows, chime in the comments. So that's a no thank you from me because I don't really want to go somewhere haunted by Ted Bundy.
No, nor do I.
I will not be adding that to the road trip. So it's like,
no.
As far as Florida freaky ass ghosts go, I feel like that's probably at the top of my list. That's the scariest one so far.
Yeah, the little girl ghost in the drag show. Yes, Ted Bundy. No.
Exactly. My thoughts exactly. Okay, Lake Lucerne. Continue your downtown Orlando ghost tour by visiting Lake Lucerne on South Orange Avenue. This quiet, unassuming lake may seem peaceful, but locals have reported spooky sightings by the shore. A mysterious lady in white is said to appear after dark under an old oak tree and vanish into the night.
Ooh.
I like that one. I like mysterious ghost ladies. Yep.
Yeah.
Lake Eola. No need to panic. This phantom dog has more in common with your own friendly pup than with the gruesome hound of the Baskervilles. Ooh. Witnesses say this small brown terrier frolics along the eastern side of the shore, then disappears into thin air. That's so cute.
Is that the little dog from the episode that we just did?
Maybe.
What was that one? The one where Dean's scared?
Yellow fever.
Yeah.
The little dog. Shih Tzu little dog.
The little like Yorkshire or whatever. With a bow.
Oh yeah, it is a Yorkie, isn't it? I just love that so much. You should go to a lake. There's a cute little ghost doggo. What more could you ask for? Add it to the road trip, I say. The next one is the Enzian Theater. The Enzian is the perfect place to enjoy independent, foreign, or classic films, as well as a brush with the supernatural. Said only to appear on moonless nights around 1 a.m., this ghost manifests itself as a disembodied head, screams, and vanishes into the kitchen next door, presumably for a late night snack.
So just a screaming head.
Just a screaming head, yeah.
I'm going to say no to that one.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. It's the part that gets me, though, is I assume that the ghost predates the kitchen. But the fact that you have a screaming head in a theater, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Where do you go if you're a screaming head? The kitchen. Why are you going into the kitchen? Why are you screaming in a theater, firstly? I mean, I get that you're a ghost. You probably have a grudge. That's fair enough. But why do you go to the kitchen? Okay. The Oviedo Lights. If glowing orbs are more your style, check out the Oviedo Lights, a spooky phenomenon popular with local teenagers in the 1940s. And on through the 1970s, no source for the lights has ever been discovered, although theories range from
Ooh.
grisly tales to swamp gases. You'll find the lights suspended in midair at the bridge, crossing over the Ikanlakhatchee River. But watch out, the eerie lights have been said to chase cars on occasion.
Ooh.
That's one of the ones that I grew up knowing about from like
Mm-hmm.
my area. We have the same lights.
Yeah.
Um, they appear randomly in the swamp and they'll lead people astray.
Mm-hmm.
And also like the whole chasing cars things is cool because like we have similar stuff around my neck of the woods where it's just like you see random lights when you're driving around in the swamp and they'll chase
Same.
you. And if they get you, it's real not good for you. No one hears
Yeah.
from you again. I love that.
I
It's so
am
much fun.
I'm covering one from round here on our next episode that's similar.
Ooh, I look forward to that. So the last one that I have for you is Spook Hill. And it says, also popular with the youth of yesteryear, this gravity-defying destination seems to roll your car uphill. So remember in Mystery Spot, this is one of the things that was kind of mentioned, like the wacky gravity. This is definitely what they were talking about.
Yeah.
But I didn't find this when I was looking at stuff for the Mystery Spot in
No,
the
and that was
area.
around that area as well, wasn't it? Because that was set in
Yeah,
Florida.
that
Because I
was
remember
in
you
Broward
saying,
County.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this is fucking fascinating to me. Okay, so it seems to roll your car uphill. A weathered sign offers a tale of a battle between a Seminole chief and an alligator as explanation, though a variety of local legends and conflicting stories exist. The only thing we can really be sure of is that Spook Hill Elementary across the street has one of the most spirited mascots ever, Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Oh,
That's adorable. And I
yeah.
am very upset that was not my school mascot. I had a wildcat.
Cute.
But yeah, no, I think it's really cool. Like areas where your car rolls by itself. You put it in neutral and it goes uphill instead of downhill.
Oh, yeah,
That's
that would be really
spooky as
creepy.
hell.
Mm. I don't know what I'd do if that happened to me.
No, me neither. But that is so fascinating. It's very X-Files.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any stories left?
Yeah, I've got one more. Okay, so my last one was sent in by a listener as well, and this one's from Australia, and it's the Bunyip, so another, well, potentially cryptid. So my main source for this story is a YouTube video from the Monstrum series, the PBS series on YouTube, which is really good, by the way.
Yeah, it is really good.
And I'll have that in my other sources linked in the show notes. So if you want to watch that, you can. So the Bunyip is a mythical amphibious creature from Australian Aboriginal folklore, and I found a couple of sources that said the word Bunyip translates to devil or evil spirit in the Wemba Wemba language, and that during European occupation, Aboriginal people warned Europeans of the dangers of river and lake swimming and told them they shouldn't swim in certain areas at all, for if they did, they would fall victim to the Bunyip. So the Bunyip is said to inhabit the reedy swamps, billabongs, rivers and lagoons of inland Australia, so like anything near water really, and was a threat to all humans and animals, but is known for devouring human prey, especially women and children.
Rude.
What else is new? There are many varying accounts of the Bunyip's appearance, though. So many say it was a four-legged creature resembling a seal. I think some people actually do think it was a seal.
Seal. What's doing all these murders? That seal over there.
Others say it was a chimera-type creature resembling many animals, so kind of like what you mentioned earlier, such as emus, horses, kangaroos, or alligators. And I found a source saying that it had an elongated neck with a body resembling an ox, a hippopotamus, or a manatee. And another saying it had a human-like figure. So, yeah, some stories say it has long, shaggy hair, and some say it has feathers or scales. And they are reported to make loud, booming, or roaring noises. And in the video, it sounded like they'd use like a dinosaur kind of sound for that bit.
Fun.
So yeah, the differing accounts. I mean, they're so different.
They are wildly different.
Yeah, but this is usually explained because of the different groups of Aboriginal peoples telling slightly different versions of the story over time.
Okay.
And in all of the stories, though, the Bunyip functions as a cautionary tale about the dangers of inland water and a lesson to respect the unpredictability of water and its dangers. So, like we were saying before,
The
they're
moral.
different stories, but it's, the moral of the story is the same.
Yeah, don't die, basically.
So there were some specific stories that I found. Some were in the video and some were on other sources. So one story tells of a woman who had her arms ripped off by a bunyip with glowing red eyes as she fetched water from a river at night.
That's not what you want.
No. Another reportedly grabbed a young boy who was playing by the river at night and took him back to its underwater cave. Another story I found from a different Aboriginal group who call the bunyip Mulyawonk says that a greedy man who caught far more fish than he needed was turned into a half-man, half-fish Mulyawonk by the elders, who he had angered due to his selfishness. So he was turned into one.
Fascinating.
And there was also another report that said that killing a bunyip was not a good idea, because if you did, you would die soon after. And there are some explanations of what people think. So most people think it's just a misidentification of known species, such as crocodiles, seals, the duck-billed platypus, like you said again earlier.
Yeah.
The sounds of swamp birds. There was a geographer called George Windsor Earle who said it was likely a dugong, a manatee-like water mammal that may have found its way inland from the sea in a time before the rivers were dammed.
Ooh.
And it could also be a surviving diprotodon.
Yeah.
A diprotodon or a large Australian marsupial that is extinct. And if you look at a picture of this, it does look similar to some of the descriptions of the bunyip. And then one source said swamp gas. So swamp gas is just always
everybody
example.
loves swamp gas.
Everyone thinks it's swamp gas.
Is like, it's definitely swamp gas.
But yeah, I like this anyway. And the video talks about how stories like this are important to preserving Aboriginal culture and helps us recognise the varied cultural and spiritual beliefs of the Indigenous people of Australia. So I like that, like keeping the stories alive kind of thing.
Yeah, that's incredibly cool.
Yeah.
Aboriginal words are so cool sounding to me.
Yeah. Especially Australian words, some of the place names and stuff. I'm like, this just sounds fun.
It's amazing. It sounds like a truly like intricate and fascinating language to me.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I had about it.
Well, that's spooky.
It's interesting though when you think, like you were talking about the skunk ape or whatever, and this one, they have some similarities. Even like different places across the world seems to have different what we'd call cryptids.
Yeah.
But they're all the same. It's like the Bigfoot. There's the Yowie in Australia. There's like the what's the other one? The Yeti. They're all different places around the world, but they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah, that is always something that has kind of fascinated me because it feels a bit Jungian. And it I don't know, it just makes me think like I guess I look at it in two ways. Either one, it's all real, or two, it is kind of Jungian and it has something to do with the human collective unconscious and the way that we process things and tell stories and
we're
how
all
our
kind of
cultures
scared of the
operate.
same things.
Yeah, being scared of the same things, needing to warn children about these specific dangers. And so you find really similar stories throughout the world. And it just reminds us all that we're all human and we're all more alike than we are different.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so I like either explanation because I'm like, fight the fairies, or, which is a reference you won't get yet, but I love it. Or you've got this kind of cool collective unconsciousness kind of vibe.
Yeah, like it. So yeah, so that's our first Halloween special.
Yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed it. Definitely remember that you can submit your stories to the email, okay?
Yeah.
So make sure that you do that sooner rather than later, because as these episodes are coming out, you're kind of the clock is starting to tick down on our ability to edit them and put them up.
Yeah, because I changed what we're doing.
Yeah, Laura changed everything lastminute.com.
But there will be more stories we'll be able to say. So
this is very true. So it is kind of a winning situation. But yeah, just remember, if you want to participate, you absolutely can. we always say the email at the end of the episode. So, and it's also always in our show links, and it is also in our bio on Instagram.
Yeah. And we'll see you next Friday. We'll have the normal episodes out as well, but Friday for the next Halloween episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy hauntings.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. We would be very grateful. And if you know someone who would enjoy it, please share.
You can find us on Instagram at the Witches of Letters podcast, or you can email us at thewitchesofletters@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay safe out there, have each other's backs, and always keep fighting.